Hello, this is Andrew Foss on the line. We are doing our call to introduce the next new moon phase and the new moon Mahavidya that is going to be reigning over the next month or so. And I'm on the line with Laura from Oracle Reports, and with that, let's start getting into the energy of the next Mahavidya.
That sounds great. Hi, Andrew. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
This is going to be interesting to see if I can tie all this together because it's so exciting what we're having happen with the next new moon. It's really already been happening, but it really comes in strong with the new moon on April 10th.
I mean, I know that in looking at it, just everything that's happened over the last two new moon phases has been, let's just say, exciting because of, I think that we, with let me see if I can pronounce it right, Narayamatiyaya.
Naramaya.
Yeah, she, the energy that she brought to us, I think, was kind of a protective energy that brought us through a lot of really, really strange things over the past 2 months, I would say.
Yes, absolutely. You know, she's so much to me like a mermaid in that she just swims in, pretty much a sea of bliss, and she tries to make things just flow so much better and easier, and she's a lot more chill. You know, they are all fierce. You know, I don't at all, underestimate, or no one should ever, question that they are warrior goddesses, but, they have other aspects, too, to explore. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about Chinnamasta, the Mahavidya that's on duty already as we go through. So we have the new moon on April 10th, and the new moon is the time when the sun and the moon line up in the sky in the same position.
Yes.
And new moons are new beginnings. They're a time when we see new intentions, or we take intentions that were set in the past to the next level, like as a spiral of evolution.
Okay.
And I wish that we were all in front of my 5-foot-wide green teacher chalkboard, because this would be so much easier to just depict if I could do it graphically. It's challenging auditorially, but we'll give it a try. So let's talk about this.
That being said, I've got some ideas for next time. Maybe we can make that work. So, but let's continue on.
Okay. So the first thing about this new moon is the new moon takes place at the Eris point, the degree of the Eris point, which is 22 Aries.
Okay.
And the Eris point is the degree where Eris was in the sky when it was discovered, when she was discovered. Yes. And that was, Eris is right now at 23 Aries. It toggles back and forth, a couple of degrees, retrograding and then moving direct. It's very far out there beyond Pluto, so it moves slowly.
Yes.
So that's a big deal, with having a new moon at the Eris point, so it's going to activate that Eris point energy. But the second factor in play here is that Mars and Venus are also conjunct the new moon at the Eris point. So we have the Sun, the Moon, Eris, Mars, and Venus right there in tight conjunction.
Got it.
So we remember that this same degree, 22 Aries, was activated back at the new moon of our current lunar month. So back on March 11th, when we started the Pisces new moon, the asteroid Pallas Athena was conjunct Eris at the Eris point.
Okay.
So at that time, Athena and Eris, those energies, joined their swords together because they both carry swords, and they sliced open a vortex in human consciousness, basically. They sounded a war cry, and they just sliced right through. So what that's kind of like is like slicing open the butterfly's cocoon, if you will, the way I've been talking about that lately.
Mm-hmm.
And that slice has progressively gotten larger as this month has progressed through the moon phases. So understand that this slice is not a wound. It's not that at all. It's an opening.
Okay.
And at this next new moon on April 10th, all of the energy that those planets that are conjunct right there at this new moon at the Eris point will flood into the opening. So we're going to have the energy of the Sun, the Moon, Eris, Mars, and Venus just flooding in.
That's making me smile.
It is so fabulous. But we have a third factor, and this is a big one. The black moon, at the day of the new moon, the black moon, another astrological entity, begins the transit that opposes the galactic center.
Okay.
So we have all of the Eris energy that I wrote about in my first book, and now a huge factor with the black moon, which is my second book, all coming into play here. And so for anybody who's new and listening, those books are available for free download on my website, oraclereport.com. So if we think about this, the galactic center and the black moon in opposition. So you can think about that as if the galactic center was the pitcher, because I'm a huge baseball fan, and generally baseball analogies come to me often.
I can work with that.
It's going to pitch it. It's a fastball, and the black moon catches it.
Okay.
Or you could think about it like a friend of mine put it at dinner last night, like a laser line.
Okay.
Okay, so that's going to be like that laser line from the galactic center to the black moon, and then that disseminates to us.
Okay.
And that's going to happen all month long, that transit of the black moon and the galactic center, the whole time. And that is its own process in and of itself.
Okay.
So both the black moon and Eris are about the cycle of death and rebirth, regeneration.
Okay.
So we have that factor at play there. But Eris is a lot of things, and since that's the main focus of the astrology of the new moon, of the month, which we would call a lunar month,
yes,
it's important to look at that. Interestingly, the Eris energy is very similar to the Chinnamasta energy, and they're both associated with the battlefield.
Okay.
And about lobbing, Eris lobbed the apple of discord, and Chinnamasta severs her head. So you get the image of, all this imagery of like very quick strikes, things that are, out of the blue, unexpected, and that they cause a lot of things to happen, like a chain reaction.
Okay.
So we need to understand what the energy of Eris is, and the first thing to think about is that the Eris energy always works in twos. Things always will happen in twos. And we can already see how this has happened because Pallas Athena hit the Eris point last new moon, and now the other planets are hitting it this time. So you can see how it's always like a twofold interaction.
Okay, so it hits us once and then hits us again.
Right. So, yeah, and it's like the first one, you get a little shock, and then you kind of come back, you bounce back from it. But it'll play out in all kinds of ways in our lives. It'll be like, you get one piece of information, and it's shocking you or whatever, and then you get the other piece that fills it in, and you kind of can understand it more.
Okay.
So we don't want to really, take our first guess or insight into something necessarily, because there's going to be something more that's going to come up to explain things. And that's such a general and a vague explanation for that, but it's kind of like don't jump the gun. Wait for another factor to come into play. If something does take you a little bit off guard, just sit tight and watch.
I think that piece of advice will be really helpful to a lot of the people I've seen talking on Facebook, where things have really kind of affected them over the past few weeks. And I think that I've gotten a lot of questions about what does it mean or what is it going to mean, and I think that explains that it's like, okay, let's hold on, and more is about to come to explain it.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and it's hard to do that, because it's usually emotional, and we're not really that patient. But the way to do that is to fall back into the planet, into nature, and follow the signs along the way, because what we gain while we're waiting for that second bit of information to kick in is how we're able to understand it, because we're following the process.
Definitely.
If that makes sense.
That makes sense to me so far.
I talked about the Eris energy because we had it in place at the total solar eclipse on November 13th, 2012. And that was what I called the activation point. So, we can see how this progression has started. Last summer was the turning point, and then we went in the fall, we went into the activation point, and now we're coming up to the next pivot. But on November 13th, at that new moon, Venus was opposing Eris. So Pallas Athena was trying that new moon. So, we continue to get these hits on these this degree. It's important to think about Eris in the context of how that energy can be manipulated and used for ill by forces that are motivated by destruction and our downfall. And the Eris energy is one of the favorite energies of the Illuminati. They worship this energy. It's known by a lot of names. I always say this. We talk about a lot of faces of the one goddess, but Eris is a lot of things, and I trace a lot of that in my book. It's Isis. It's Inanna. It's Eris Kegel from the Sumerian.
Yes.
We can track it through. It's Lilith. Columbia. You could even make a case for it being Athena. It's warrior goddess energy.
Yes.
And because it does have that polarity, that element to it that is two-sided, it makes it appealing for them to manipulate, because they do that very well. They manipulate two sides, against each other, and the power that can be gained from that is immense. So, it's a magical spell. It's a time where a magical spell can be enacted and have a lot of power whenever you have a lot of Eris energy present, like we did on November 13th. Right after I had written that we would probably see, some escalation in war and aggression, that was when Israel kind of amped up against Palestine. Yeah. Now, this time around, it could be, it could be Israel again. It could be, something about North Korea that could pop up or fire up a little bit over there, although I think that's a distraction, the North Korea thing. But, the people, there's money to be made, there are agendas to be forwarded, and they don't let opportunities go unused. And so, archonic forces that operate through Illuminati will take advantage of this in some way. We may not even know about what way that is, but it may be very visible.
Definitely. So, let's just say, with everything that's gone on with North Korea, I've been very interested to see just where everybody's standing with it. The fear, of course, is out there, but the question is who's going to be involved on what side, and it's very strange to see it. I think it is, and I go back to Facebook only because it's probably one of the best places I've seen news aggregated in my lifetime, because people talk about it immediately. Right. I wouldn't know that because I'm not on it. But and that being said, who knows how much of it is true? But it's a place where these people are talking. Yes, absolutely, and it's all a process of discernment, for everybody. So, that's just, I'm not focusing on that, but we saw it before, and that element is present. When you deal with Eris, it's battle. They consider her, they push the darker side because she does encapsulate both polarities, the light and the dark. But they will push the dark side with that as the goddess of strife and chaos, when really it's about death and rebirth. That's really what the energy is about. Yes. So we now come to, after the turning point and the activation point, we now, with this new moon, come to the strike point. Okay. And so everybody should just stop right there and just pierce through the psychic screen that's in place around the word strike, because what the word strike means in this context is striking down the screen that is in place over the world or the collective of humanity. It doesn't mean attack necessarily. It's about, remember, the energy of Chinnamasta, as I've talked about, it blows our minds. This is, through this vortex that's been sliced open, this strike comes through, the strike of energy, this massive energetic frequency upgrade.
it's a metamorphosis from one state to another. That means a change. Energetically, we're changing from more of our DNA is activated, more of our brain is activated, or turned on, and that translates into spiritual evolution. It translates into clarity and wisdom, and the even more direct communication with the planet, which is really what we're doing and really what we're all doing. You remember at December 21st, 2012, I talked about it's playground. It's the playground. Everyone's on the playground now. Well, truly, everyone's on the playground now, and by that I mean all the Mahavidyas, even the Chinnamasta is, her energy is dominant and really leading. All of the Mahavidyas are at work, and usually, it used to be they would step back and let one take over, and they would, be behind the scenes. They are always working, and directly, individually with people. Everyone will resonate with at least one, or some more than others. We're always in that communication, even when it's not their dominant month.
Okay.
But everyone's working now. So when it's, if we had already discussed what each of the Mahavidyas was about, if we had done this a year ago, we could now see how they're all working, and we could just be talking about what they're all doing. But we're not there yet, so, and that's probably my fault. I should have started that sooner. But,
I don't know that you take it as fault, but this has been a learning experience, and I'd like to say reacquainting ourselves with these energies that have been floating around that we may not have been aware of for as it's been happening. But with I think 2012 and just the amazing things that have gone on, these energies are really up in the surface, and we can feel them, and having a knowing about them has just been amazing.
Well, and it's all different now. Everything is different now. It's all, everything's on the table. All options are open. The planet's fully awake, completely engaged, and striking. There's a strike of energy coming. I received the name of this pivot point over a month ago, and I didn't like it, and that's just my own thing. But I was like, there's just got to be a better way to say that. But it was, it was a clear communication that it was a strike point, and no matter how much I'd wanted to not look at that, which is, by the way, exactly what happens when we have a transit of the black moon.
Okay.
My personal black moon happens to be located at the opposition of the galactic center. So I've done, I've done this. I understand this, and it's about seeing what you haven't been able to see. It's about learning what the shadows are and your own personal fears and moving through that. But there's a lot of it that we just tend to not want to look at first. It takes us a little bit of time to kind of really be able to see it. And that's the way this next month is going to go. It's going to be a process where we are in one way taken down because we're going through a lot and seeing a lot, but at the same time, the influx that's coming in is actually, you could think about it as the raising of frequency. You hear that all the time, but that's really an accurate way to describe it. At the same time, so if we weren't having this massive influx of energy from all these planets at the Eris point, the transit of the black moon in opposition to the galactic center would be probably a lot harder, which says that things are changing. The way we have experienced life and the way the world has been, since historical times is changing, and it is all moving in another direction. So if you don't like the strike point terminology, if you want to think about it differently, you can think about it in other ways. You could think of it as an emergence point or a launch point or an ignition point, because it will definitely be an ignition. With the Sun and Mars conjunct there in Aries, that's a lot of fire. And, maybe you could think of it as a nexus point or an engagement point, however you want to think about it. Whatever works for you. It's like X marks the spot. And it's coming right down directly onto us, and it's beautiful, really. From
what you're seeing, that strike point would be at the new moon in May.
The new moon on April 10th.
Okay, on April 10th, that's the strike point.
Yep.
Okay.
It's going to strike right then, and then that influx will happen at the new moon, and then it'll just develop through the moon phases. You know, what I'd love to do at some point is maybe have my teacher come on and talk about the moon phases and what each one of them are about and how, you know, to work with them, because she's, you know, rather brilliant about that, and I think everyone would probably really like it.
That sounds like it'd be an amazing conversation, and I'm more than willing to facilitate.
Okay, well, if anyone's interested, you know, we can certainly do that.
And I know that from the time we started these, I've gotten a lot of questions about whether we would do an open conference call where we would allow questions to be asked. Something that you can consider, and that can be moderated as well.
Well, you know, I love that idea. A lot of times it takes people like some time to process what I say or what I'm talking about. And so, like when I did the call-in with Janet, I think people just really didn't know what to say. So, you know, we were just talking, but maybe after, you know, introducing this and maybe later in the month, we could talk about this again during the disseminating phase of the next new moon, because that's really the best time to be sharing and processing information, and we learn so much from each other at that time, everything that's seeded at the new moon. Now, this new moon is also the new moon of the new year. It's the new astrological year. It's the new natural year, and, well, at least in the northern hemisphere. I always feel like I'm leaving everyone out in the southern hemisphere. But
for that, that's something I think that deserves a long conversation as well, just to understand what the astrological year means. I'm not sure if you've got time to discuss it now, but it may be something we can talk about also at another time.
Well, it's really very simple. It's just the Aries is the first sign in the zodiac, and so when the new moon in the sky moves into the sign of Aries, when the sun and moon conjunct in the sign of Aries, it's the new moon, so it's the start, and that always is in the spring here.
Okay,
and
that
so
makes
it's
sense.
the time. Yeah, so it's the time we seed and initiate where we want to go. So if right now, you know, we're currently today, if you're listening on April 4th, we're closing out the whole past year, really, and preparing the ground for this new to enter. So the more we can release, the more of our feelings of shortcoming, of our, you know, any place where we feel like we have really tried to make a difference or make a change with ourselves and haven't gotten there, that's okay. Release the fact of where that you aren't happy with your progress and start anew, because it's the negative mindset, it's the judgment that comes into play that holds us back. It isn't that we haven't accomplished our goal. We just self-sabotage that way. And
go ahead.
Things can be released, you know, with a flip of a mindset, you know, but it only happens when it's supposed to unlock, when it's time for it to unlock. So we don't need to beat ourselves up for it. If you haven't been able to release much or as much as you wanted, or you've continued to procrastinate with something, that's okay. It just recognizing that and endeavoring to do better with it is enough, and then we try again.
I think that acknowledging that time point is it'll be very helpful to the people listening. I know that for myself, I'll add that into my own meditations, and the way I'm kind of looking at things is kind of a closing out of some of these unresolved feelings or thoughts that I've got. I kind of like that knowingness about it.
Yes, you know, the goddess is gentle. She can be torrential, but she's gentle, and she enjoys the process of teaching and about spirit, and that's what it is. When this energy comes in, and some people are going to feel this sooner than others. Some people, depending on your own chart, you know, it will, however this black moon transit that's going to go on, you know, this month, it'll be different from everybody. The black moon's in Gemini, so the shadow, the fear with the black moon in Gemini is the fear of rejection, the fear of disapproval, the fear that people won't like you. It tends to hinder our expression of ourselves, our personal expression. It can worry too much about other people than itself. We tend to do that when the black moon is in Gemini. And so just keep in mind that we're stepping beyond boundaries here. Eris breaks boundaries. She can't stand to be restricted in any way. And so any blocks, anything on our minds, any restrictions or limitations we have, they'll be sliced open and we can work with that. So it's an influx of energy, but people are going to experience it differently, and the body is definitely going to react. Muscles, joints, headaches, visual weirdness. When you go through a metamorphosis like this, things really change, and the body has weird reactions to it. So just know if that's happening for people, that's just, the energy field is trying to adjust. It'll be interesting to see if the sun powers up a little and does something, during the new moon phase. That would be really kind of nice. It's been very quiet lately, but maybe it'll just show off a little bit. That'd be great.
Definitely.
So I hope that has brought a little bit of clarity. Like I said, it's a complex nexus of three different things really going on to produce the effect, but I'm really, really excited about it.
I mean, and question I've got, we've talked about the interplay of Eris and the new moon. Can you talk a little bit more about where Chinnamasta fits in and how the energy of Chinnamasta is going to be affecting us, or how's it going to play in the next month?
Yeah, Chinnamasta will be adding to the part of it that's going to break restrictions, break boundaries, break barriers. There could be, Chinnamasta is going to bring things in we haven't really seen before or considered. And there are already some things that I'm kind of watching that are kind of big that would demonstrate that. And if that seems to have, I have to research a few of these things a little bit more before I want to show them to everybody, because I just kind of want to vet a few things more with it. But things just really big, things that we haven't even considered. The Chinnamasta energy takes our minds into a completely new place, and she enjoys that adventure of going in new places. And the other thing that's really, really beautiful is her generosity. Wishes, she grants wishes. I mean, don't hold back. Put it out there what you want. Ask. Little wishes, like, I don't know, the craving you might have, or just something that you really want to appear in your life. Put that out there, and don't be surprised if that comes back, because this is one of her main purposes, is to give. I think I mentioned most of the Mahavidyas are not. They all give of themselves. And they share like that. But it's part of her nature and part of her mission to give, to disseminate energy to be manifested into a certain way, meaning our life, how we want our life to be, or how we want to play that life.
I think I've read, as I've been doing research on Chinnamasta, you've talked about this. They've kind of got this warrior, barbaric mentality about it, but then with the whole chopping off of heads, offering of gifts to people as it's happening, and that I'm kind of seeing that in the way you describe it.
Yeah, and they're a little bit, I would describe them more as wild or frenzied as opposed to barbaric, because they're quite exquisite. But yes, it is raw power, and that is barbaric. Yes, for sure, it's that. But they wield it with deft precision. So
yes,
and they do it like yoga. So and dance moves. That's just the way they disseminate it.
Yes.
But just think about that. Wishes coming true. I mean, not bad.
No, that's fantastic, and I've just since you started talking about it in the last week, it's exciting. I'm feeling that exciting energy, and really looking forward to what April 10th starts to bring to us.
Oh yes, and I just love what everyone's been writing and creating and producing, and I think that it's just going to continue to grow. Hey, we're at the strike point now, and so all bets are off. Everything is up for grabs to go in the way that you want it to now. And now remember, that doesn't mean it's all going to happen during that lunar month. It's the beginning of a new lunar year, but what's set in place, whatever intention that you want to put out there at the new moon, and we should all be doing that,
Yes.
during that new moon phase. It doesn't have to be, the moment of the new moon. Just during those, within that 4-day framework, plant your intention in the ground. Tell Sophia what, you intend and what you want to do. And it's basically, you're on the playground, and here she comes, and you're like, hey, Sophia, I want to play this. And she's like, okay, let's play that. And then that's what will evolve. And that will be how the instruction comes through.
Wonderful. Well, I guess I would say for everybody that's listening and wants to help take part, please interact with us either through the Mahavidya Project Facebook page or responding to comments on mahavidyaproject.com. Both of them offer you areas where you can offer your discussions, ask questions, and be creative. Add your creative energies and the things that you're feeling as you feel them throughout the month. As Laura said, we've gotten some amazing pieces of artistry that have come to people, and the more that we see, or the more that you can share with us, the more, exciting this whole project is going to be.
Absolutely.
So is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's great. I hope that it was understandable, and, I'll try to respond, through you to the Facebook if anyone has any questions about it.
Okay, sure. Well, again, thank you to all the people listening. Please feel free to comment and write back. We'd love to hear from you. It is April 4th today, looking at a new moon phase on April 10th that promises to be exciting. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks.